What makes a good sequel? Oftentimes they dare to be bold and creative, and yet are still faithful to the material that preceded them. When I asked you that question, you most likely thought of games like Super Mario Galaxy 2, Super Smash Bros. Melee, or perhaps even The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Those games were almost universally praised, loved and cherished by their respective fan bases, and it's arguably because of how true they stayed to prior games, while still introducing new and exciting concepts to keep players interested. The game I'll be discussing today has received quite the opposite reception since its release. Often regarded as one of the most disappointing sequels in history, this title took a complete U-turn from the formula the older games in the series had established. But was all the criticism it got justified? Does it deserve to have such a tarnished reputation? Was it really that bad? With all the negativity surrounding it, it only seems fair for someone to take a look at what this game did right. I'm FibreOpticBroadbean, and this is why I love Starfox Adventures. What immediately struck me about this game was just how good it looks. As usual, Rareware hit it out of the park with this one. Once again, they pushed the hardware to its limits, creating one of the most gorgeous games on this system, and arguably the next in line as well. Take the cutscenes for example. Within them you can see every single strand of Fox's fur individually, which is a really impressive feat. The environments look lush and diverse, with each being easily distinguishable from the next. Some areas were bright, some were moody, but all of them looked incredible regardless of the atmosphere. The colours look amazing, the textures look great, the water rivals that of Mario Sunshine, and they even added a day-night cycle. Yeah, I know, those are commonplace in most games these days, but at the time it was awesome. When you take into consideration that this game was made in 2002, it really shows just how amazing a job the team pulled off. Quite honestly, you can say what you want about Starfox Adventures, but you can't deny that it had some of the best looking graphics on the system. To me, what went hand in hand with the stunning visuals was the music that accompanied them. While the tracks individually aren't much to write home about, when you combine them with the surrounding world you can really appreciate how atmospheric it all feels. Each track sets a distinct tone for the surroundings, whether it's a pleasant beach or a gloomy cave. When playing through this game, I found that this made the exploring feel really immersive, and that immersion isn't something I feel that often. This game is generally pretty linear, with the player often going from point A to point B, but that doesn't mean that there's no room for exploration. In fact, there's plenty. I often found myself straying off course from the task at hand. Even in the first major area, Thorntail Hollow, I casually strolled into places I wouldn't need to access until hours and hours later. I have some fond memories of wandering into somewhere like Moon Mountain Pass just to see what was there, even if the current objective was only contained in the starting area. Exploring is rewarding as well, with there being some collectibles like fuel cells and the secret cheat token wells to incentivize it. While exploring isn't a necessity by any means, it provides a surprising amount of entertainment, especially on your first playthrough when it's all novelty. While the story of this game wasn't particularly strong, the cast was colourful and varied, with quite a few memorable characters. Crystal, for example, has since become a staple of the series, appearing in many subsequent games such as Star Fox Assault and Star Fox Command, even featuring in Smash Bros. Ultimate as an assist trophy. The primary villain of the game,
General Scales, Hiku, Kohud, or Taskuki, Eve Dinosaur Planet.
was a newly introduced enemy who presented himself in a menacing manner effectively over the course of this adventure. The final showdown with him is oh so satisfying, using everything you've learned to— oh wait, never mind, it's Andros. Okay, I know this game does get a lot of criticism for this ending. It just makes no sense, and I really can't defend it. I did, however, enjoy the fight with Andros, which takes place in the Arwing. Oftentimes, people seem to say that this isn't a good fight, and while from a narrative point of view it most certainly isn't, I really did get a bit of a rush from the fight, and it was somewhat of a challenge and gave me quite a bit of trouble initially. Speaking of which, there are a number of boss fights dispersed throughout the game, and some of them are actually really cool. I had a particularly good time with the fight against Golden, in which he had to go into his mouth and attack him. That was a thrilling and satisfying fight, which really tested the combat skills you'd developed by this point. The combat itself, well, admittedly simplistic, is pretty solid overall. You automatically lock onto enemies, which for the most part is a good thing, and you use your staff to beat up the enemies until they run out of health. Every hit you land gives a satisfying crunch, with Fox pulling off some stylish moves to add to the effect. He wields Crystal's staff, a really versatile tool with a number of functions like blasting fire, launching you into the air, and even slamming into the ground to make earthquakes. The menu to access these functions is pretty well designed, making the staff a convenient and fun weapon to use. Alongside the versatility that the staff brings to the table, Fox is also accompanied by Tricky, a prince from the Earthwalker tribe. He serves as Fox's main sidekick for this journey, bringing a wide array of moves to the table, like his flame breath and digging ability. You can even play catch with him, which actually changes his colour palette, a really nice touch. And you know where you get the ball from? Oh boy. This shop, man, I swear. Where do I even begin? It's found in Thorntail Hollow and contains a number of different items like maps, bomb spores and fuel cells, which you can buy using the currency of this game, scarabs. Pretty standard stuff, right? You'll often find yourself coming back to this store to buy that one map or item that you need to progress, but I haven't even touched on the best thing about this store. The shopkeeper. This guy, you'll just be walking around and he'll say,
"Hurry and choose something, or get out."
If you try to pick up an item that you don't have enough money for, he yells,
"Put that down! You don't have enough scarabs."
And the best part is the haggling. You can actually get the items down to a lower price than they're marked, but if you try this trick too much, he'll,
Yeah, I don't need business from cheapskates. Get out!
Yeah. It's one of those things that really shouldn't be funny, but it's just hilarious to me, and this game is full of moments like those. Like talking to this random stone guy who's Scottish for some reason.
Ah, a lovely sweetie.
Okay. In all seriousness though, alongside these often unintentionally funny moments, this game actually did have some pretty decent cutscenes. The voice acting overall isn't too shabby. I particularly like Fox's voice. He always seems so bored, done with this whole gig, ready to claim his money already, sometimes making rather snarky comments.
Yeah, very funny, sir. Fox out.
He and the rest of the Starfox crew are seen to interact a fair amount, and it's always nice to see the dynamics between them. Their designs have also been refreshed, and they look great. The same can be said for the Arlings, which truly do look amazing. There are so many things about this game that are executed so well, so many things it did right, but with it being so widely disliked, just how easy are they to overlook? You really have to admire the effort that Rareware put in here. With the game originally being planned as Dinosaur Planet, completely unrelated to the Starfox universe before an abrupt change in development, Rareware had to put the pedal to the metal to get it out in time. It was released on the 23rd of September 2002, just one day before the Microsoft buyout. Talk about cutting it fine. To say that Star Fox Adventures was a perfect game would be a huge overstatement. But yeah, I know it's flawed. Yeah, I know it's half-baked, and I know it wasn't exactly a Star Fox game. But come on, credit where it's due. When you look at the situation they were lumped with, it's clear to see that Rareware did exceptionally well to end up with what they did. A fantastic adventure game that I, for one, thoroughly enjoyed. Allow me to take you back to the first question I asked. What makes a good sequel? The general consensus is that Star Fox Adventures doesn't show many of the right qualities, and I have to say, I agree. Adventures is not a good sequel to Star Fox 64, but that doesn't mean it can't be a good, fun game in its own respect, and in my opinion, that it is.